Hi, my name is Dr. Alan Lim from Skratch Labs, and today I'm going to show you how to make the perfect rice cake. The first step in making a perfect rice cake is finding the right rice. We like to use calrose rice or medium to short grain rice, essentially sushi rice, for making all of our rice cakes because it's got a nice stickiness, it's got a low fiber content. It also has a very high glycemic index, which makes it great for when you're on the run, whether that be cycling, hiking, or running. So you need the right rice. You also need a little rice cooker or even a big rice cooker and a measuring cup. To prep your rice, you want to actually wash it before you cook it. To wash your rice, you simply rinse it through with cold or cool water until you get a nice clear layer of water and you've rinsed off all that starch. After you've done that, you want to add your water. And for every cup of white rice, it's going to be 1.5 cups of water. One of the biggest mistakes that people make when making rice cakes is they don't add enough water. And if you don't add enough water, you're not going to get that stickiness that holds the rice cake together. All right, this is ready to cook. All right, today we're going to make a savory rice cake. You know, just because you're out on the go doesn't mean that you always need to be eating sweet stuff. Sometimes you might enjoy something really savory, salty, meaty, bacony. It'll take about 20-25 minutes for the rice to cook. So during that time, I like to do things like fry my bacon, prep everything else that's gonna go in the rice cake. Just make sure that everything is ready to go to use my time most efficiently. So as this bacon is frying, as this rice is cooking, one of the things I like to do is actually prep my wrapping paper. To make the savory cakes, I love using Bragg's Aminos. It's kind of a soy sauce, but it's a little mellower. And I'll just kind of drench it until it turns brown. And I'll taste it until it tastes kind of savory and salty. All right. It's not my first rodeo. This looks pretty good. I'll add a little bit of maple syrup. There's nothing like a little savory or a little salt mixed in with a little sweet. If you don't like maple syrup, you could always just use some brown sugar, but I'll stick with the maple syrup for now. Another thing you can add is you can add a little bit of balsamic vinegar. This gives it just a little bit of acidity and just a little bit of tang that balances out both the sugar as well as the salt. Ultimately, you got to make this stuff the way you want to make this stuff. So if it tastes good to you, that's all that really matters. Once the rice is finished seasoned, I'll basically take about half of it out of the bowl, and what I'll do is I'll layer it right into a little sheet pan. So I've got half of it down. I'm gonna take some Justin's maple almond butter. Why? Because it's just delicious. I'm just gonna drizzle a little bit throughout. Once the maple almond butter is spread throughout, I'll take my whole strips of bacon and I'll just layer this down. And then once that's done, I'll take the rest of my rice and I'll just throw it on top. Now that the rice cakes have cooled a little bit, I'm just gonna go through and essentially just start cutting them up. Use my little handy rice paddle, which is one of the most important tools that you can use when you're making rice cakes. And since there's some bacon I'm chopping through, I'm gonna be a little bit aggressive. I'm just gonna chop right through. Once I've gotten this started, essentially, I'm gonna pick up one of these cakes. I'm just gonna lay it down. Once I've laid out the cakes, I'm gonna wrap. I pull this sheet of paper over till it's right up at the edge. I pull the other half over, then I fold it back on itself to create a seam. This seam is really useful because it gives the riders something to grab to open up this little pouch. I then come through and I basically fold out the corners like I'm wrapping a Christmas present, and I pull the tabs back and boom, I've got a perfectly wrapped rice cake. So there you have it. That's how you make the perfect rice cake, or in this case, the perfect savory rice cake. For more information about this recipe and other recipes, check out the Feed Zone Cookbook or the Portables Cookbook, both available at competitivecyclist.com.